Lovely. Hello and welcome again to my YouTube channel. And I have my English always goes very funny when I start because I'm so excited to introduce you to Sam and to finally talk to her. Our paths met on Instagram, and I've pinged a few questions to Sam, and what she posts about really resonates with my heart. You know, I find what she talks about is something that I've been searching and wanted to learn more about and implement it into my life. So a warm welcome, Sam. Thank you for joining me from Somerset. And if we could begin by, first of all, saying, if you'd like to introduce yourself, Sam.
Hello, thank you for inviting me. It's a great pleasure to be here. So my name is Sam MacLaren, and I am a British animist and seer and writer and academic. I recently graduated from the University of Wales, Trinity St David, with a first class honours in Celtic Studies. And I've just finished a short course with Oxford University on ritual and religion in prehistory, which was fascinating. So I suppose my life started spiritually, I think, when I was about 7 years old. I had a few interesting experiences that kind of let me know that I wasn't alone, or we are not alone, as it were, on the planet and in our lives. Obviously, for a child, they were quite scary at times. But as I've grown up, I've become more and more accustomed to these experiences that I have. And I would say over the last maybe 30 years, I have been developing my own seership capabilities, developing my connection with my guides. And over the last 10 years, it's kind of really sort of narrowed focus into I suppose, the spirituality of the British Isles, and in particular, what was happening for the ancient Britons before the arrival of Christianity.
Lovely, thank you. You're so elegant. I need to take a leaf out your book. It's like I'm just like stumbling, go, oh, I'm so excited we're here. One of the things, like, I asked if you could come on board and talk about was about rituals and ceremonies, but you just mentioned the word that you're developing as a seer. What is a seer?
Okay, well, seer is what I would consider a more appropriate word for than shaman. Okay, so we have a lot of people who say that they are shamanic practitioners and shamans and things like that. But for me, as a bit of an anal academic, I really am. You know, shamanism is connected to a specific set of practices from a specific region, the Altai Mountains in Mongolia. So seership is a word, or seer was a word that was used in the British Isles to describe somebody who had those kind of visionary capabilities. So the clue is in the name. It's one who sees. So basically, you know, sort of sees from a spiritual perspective. So for me, that kind of manifests as what they make clairsentience, so instant
Ah,
knowing, yeah, about certain situations, people. So little bits of clairvoyance, spirit contact, healing abilities, things like that, and the ability to divine, you know, potential future outcomes based on a person's life path. So that's essentially it, really.
I like that. Listening to you explain, to me, it feels more of a softer energy. It's more a feminine energy coming through. The way it's all beautiful, a softer energy that is healing for everyone. but so thank you for explaining that. My next question is, how would you, well, I'm going to hand it over to you because I asked you if you'd come on board and talk about rituals and ceremonies. So rather than me saying, ask you numerous questions, just suddenly I've left that tucked in because I was doing my makeup. Could you please explain rituals and ceremonies for us, please?
I can, and so you're going to have to. This is where I'm going to drop into my academic training. So if it suddenly starts to sound like a lecture, just kind of stop me, won't you? And
Yeah.
because I get quite excited. So I think the best place to start is to actually define what ritual and ceremony actually is. And as I said, I've just finished a course with Oxford Uni on ritual and religion in prehistory. So I'm going to give you their sort of academic definition. Okay, so ritual is or can be described as a set of symbolic actions, essentially, and they're normally performed for their psychological, spiritual, and social effects. So rituals can be, but not always, but can be characterized by formalism or traditions or sacred symbolisms. And they're often enacted as part of religious ceremonies or other customary practices like religious services or initiation rites, weddings, and funerals. So the main purpose of ritual, I guess you could say, it's about building and affirming community bonds and group identities, because rituals will bring people together around shared symbols, meanings, and practices, obviously. They also transmit beliefs and values. So they teach people the beliefs and moral values of their particular society or group. And they also provide a sense of continuity. So rituals connect us. They connect the present with the past, if you like, through symbolic repetition of traditional actions. They also, I would say, they mark the transition. So rites of passages, rites of passage in life of individuals and community. And the one that's important for me is that they help to manage anxiety and uncertainty, because a ritual can provide us with a sense of order and control in the face of, sort of major life events and the unknown. And it helps us to safely experience the sacred and supernatural. So religious rituals create that encounter with the divine or the spiritual realities. So that's it in a nutshell.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, thank you. I was just looking at in the background, you've got an elephant, and my daughter's drawn me an elephant in my background. So with the ceremonies, is that like the is that the same as rituals, ceremonies?
Um, so yeah, I tend not to really make much of a difference between the two. Ceremony is perhaps more formal. Yeah, so if you because when I when I hear the word ceremony, what I see in my mind is, either high ceremonial magicians doing, sort of these complex alchemical practices, or, at the moment I'm seeing a bishop conducting a service and things like that, so whereas rituals tend to be they're more personal.
Yeah. So
Um, so like ceremony for me is often involves groups of people, and ritual tends to be, from, well, in my opinion, on my experience, is more about personal practice.
yeah. So each and every day we can incorporate a simple ritual as making a cup of tea. Good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And something that really stood out for me is like how rituals can help with anxiety. There's a lot of people that I know that do suffer with anxiety, Could you elaborate what's something they could do as a ritual or to help with anxiety,
Okay,
please?
so really, just to sort of explain how it helps, really. So the purpose of a personal ritual for somebody in an anxious state, you see, like starting with a morning routine, it provides a structure, okay, to a person's life, and brings in kind of self-discipline and a sense of control at the start of the day. So basically, if you're projecting ritual, it takes you out of your anxiety space, out of your head, out of body sensations, and puts the focus outside of the self. Okay. Um, so it's helping a person to focus their intention outside of the self, if that makes sense. So one of the things that I recommend, when people are first starting out on this path of really, really, really simple, that is as simple as lighting a candle. So a wee tea light, right, on your table, in a sacred space, whatever. You just putting the light on and just breathe. Like literally just breathe and be with the silence. Okay, focusing the attention on the flame and just allowing, because thoughts, the mind is never still. It takes an awful lot of training to silence the monkey in there, and especially for me as well, having ADHD, it's just never shuts up. So you allow the thoughts, but also breathe them out, just let them pass, and eventually it sort of brings that sense of calm. And the more, I guess, maybe the more you sort of dive into your spirituality and you start connecting with your guides, another great thing that I do is just to call in the guides and sit in that power with them. And there doesn't have to be a conversation, there doesn't have to be anything happening. It's just feeling the presence and knowing that you are not alone is another way of helping to bring down anxious state.
Wow. Listening to you talk is just beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's just touched my heart. Um, how like that is a truly beautiful way, like just lighting the tea light and sitting in that at the start of the day is just beautiful, and it's something very, very simple and easy to do, and something that I think we should allow ourselves that time each morning to do it. We owe it to ourselves. We live in a world that's so fast paced and so doesn't I don't want to I don't know what the word is. Yeah, so fast paced. And then just listening to you talk, it was just beautiful, grounding. That's, I think, the word is grounding. Could you and then you spoke about the spirit guides coming close, and I think that's one thing. I'm like sat there and I'm like, nobody's talking to me, but when I heard you speak about that, I saw a circle around you. It was like you were part of a circle and they were sat to your left and to your right in a circle, and it was just sat in the power, and your energies all coming together, which just felt so beautiful. In a lot of my videos, I do talk about the return of the feminine energy, return of the old ways. What's your thoughts on, I know we're diversing from what I had originally, but what are your thoughts about what's happening at the moment with spirituality and the Celtic wisdom? And I mean, we live on an island that is phenomenal, isn't it? This land that we live on it's steeped with history, but we're not taught about this history in school. We're not taught about our roots, are we?
No, not at all. Not at all. And a lot of people are finding their connection to these lands through modern Celtic practices. And unfortunately, and this is where I make myself unpopular with the masses. Okay, that most of these practices aren't based in antiquity. They are based probably from the Celtic revivalist movement of the 18th and 19th centuries, and it's in at that point where we have like the rise of neo-druidry and sort of in the 1940s the ideas of Wicca as a religion emerges, which is kind of loosely based on Celtic mythology and other types of mythologies. And it was quite a shock to my system when I went to university to discover that all of these things were fabrications.
Yeah.
It was a lot of the stuff that I had learnt previously was based around ideas of Celtic shamanism or Celtic paganism, things like the Maiden Mother Crone and the Celtic tree calendar and all of these kinds of things that we accept as being factual are actually just modern inventions, and they don't actually have a reflection in the ancient mythologies and histories. So it's like I had to start from scratch and rebuild a practice, which is what my work is all about now, is like rebuilding a practice based on what is known rather than what has been, the product of the fantasies from the minds of people like Robert Graves.
Yeah. And it's refreshing. It is refreshing because when I've read your posts, it resonates in my heart. Yet when I've tried, no, I've not even tried to go down the Wicca path at all. I just and it just doesn't resonate. And I think that's what we need to do, don't we? We have to question everything and see if it resonates within our hearts. Because it's in our blood, isn't it? It's in our DNA, the truth. And it's lovely that someone like you is coming along and going, just sweeping away that stuff, and let's get back to our roots. Could you elaborate a little bit on the courses that you do, please?
Okay, so I'm working with an ancient Irish myth at the moment. Actually, some Instagram posts going up today about that.
Yay! I'll share them.
So I read this story, The Settling of the Manor at Tara, about 10 years ago. And when I read it, I got a sort of an excited sense of, oh, this sounds a little bit like a medicine wheel. But it's like nothing like the medicine wheel of the Lakota or anything like that. So where we are taught in our sort of neo-pagan space that the 4 directions are assigned 4 elements, earth, air, fire, and water, that's again a modern projection. It's based on Greek philosophy and doesn't actually form part of our native culture. But this myth that I read speaks about attributes of the 4 directions in the center. So rather than elements, so these attributes that affect a human life, but also can act as medicine for a human life, in my opinion. So it gives the directions of west is knowledge and foundations, north is battle and conflict, east is prosperity and hospitality, and south is music and fertility, and the center is sovereignty. Yeah. Okay, so it's like I started with those basic principles, and then began to animistically reflect, meditate, and eventually work with them as a kind of medicine practice. And oh my God, the power of it has been incredible.
Wow.
Like life-changing, incredible. I know I got diagnosed with breast cancer a few years ago, back in 2019. And I used that wheel cosmological model to help take me through my disease processes, my treatment processes, and bring me back into, the sovereign state of balance and harmony. And so the whole thing, my whole cancer experience, if you like, just lasted 8 months
Wow.
from start to finish,
Incredible.
because I
Incredible.
used these four different directions to take me through the process, because it is a wheel, it's a life cycle, it's a human experience cycle, it's everything. It's absolutely everything. So I've developed that into a weekend course, which I teach now all over the country. So it's 2 days where we dive into the wheel and its symbolism and what each of these attributes represents on a much deeper level, both physically and spiritually and psychologically as well. And how we can bring ourselves into that state of sovereign peace and balance by giving equal attention to these four attributes. And from that, I've been able to develop a year-long course in British seership, if you like, based around these five sort of cosmological, these five attributes. And it's just been amazing, the feedback I'm getting from people time and time again. It's like we feel like we've come home.
Mm.
That
And
is a phrase that is repeated over and over and over.
yeah, and I think, um, uh, yeah, and I think that's what that we've been so disconnected to who we truly
Mm-hmm.
are, haven't we? We've lost that connection, and I can totally understand how people feel like they've come home, we'll come back, and I wonder whether with what's happened over the last few years, with everything that's happened, whether a few of my friends say it's a war on the consciousness, but there's these two guys in Australia who said the river is now divided. We can either take the one river or the other, and I think the one river is returning us back home to who we truly are, and it is, a lot of my other colleagues will say it is about being sovereign. It's
Mm.
cutting these ties to be sovereign beings of who we are, and we're all here for a reason, and we all take on the body of this earth. So we take on all of her strengths and her abilities. It's a gift to be here, but we are pulled in this direction, that direction, that we need material wealth, material gain to do work, and we're all lacking what these guys have gone on your course. We've been lacking that, and now they've found, oh, this is me. This is
Mm-hmm.
me. And then when you stand in your truth and you stand in your who you truly are, then the world around you just resonates to who you are. Um, oh gosh, there was some question. So yeah, you're going to do a year-long course. Is that going to
Mm-hmm.
be online, or how's that going to work?
No, the year-long course is a whole different animal, so to speak. So I work with my guide very, very closely in developing this as a practice. And again, this is where people might sense some resistance or disagreement with me. But historically, the seer, the shaman, the wise person, the cunning person, not everybody was that.
Yes, I'm yeah. So I think I understand correctly. They can apply to go on the course, but
Yes.
they're not necessarily going to get on the course simply
No.
because the guides, or it's not for them.
It goes back to what you mentioned earlier about this fast-paced lifestyle, and this idea that we have, that we can have instant enlightenment if we just pay for it.
Yeah,
If we throw money at it, we can have anything we want,
yeah.
right? Which is an attitude which absolutely, it pisses me off, quite frankly. Sorry, I did say I wasn't going to swear, but there we are. It
Oh, you can
does.
swear.
It absolutely pisses me off. So yeah, if I throw enough money at you, I can have anything I like. Whereas the guy that I work with is like, no, this is not something that should just be available for everybody, and that's not gatekeeping. Okay, it's because it can have quite a detrimental psychological effect on people who are not healed. And what is happening in society, I've found, is that a lot of unhealed people are being drawn to the healing arts because it's a way of working out their own issues, or
Agree.
sometimes even a way of avoiding their own issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you said earlier on about how you felt that my path was one that was gentle, and well, I'm going to have to disagree with you on that, because it has been hellish at times. Okay,
Mm.
facing my shadow. Okay, facing my own personal demons, my own personal issues. When you enter into this kind of relationship with spirit, there is nowhere to hide.
No, you can't. It's warts and all, isn't it?
There is
Yeah.
nowhere to hide, and he is absolutely adamant that nobody should be taught to heal another person until they've done their own work and
Yeah.
come into their own sovereign space. Because how can I support and hold space for another person if they break down, if I'm not there, if I'm not healed, because
Mm.
it's going to trigger something in me.
Mm.
Yeah, so this is why people go through the application process. um, and I trust my spiritual guidance implicitly, and if he says no, there will be a reason why, and he will give me the reason why and any work that needs to be done for that particular person, so that they can go and help themselves, do what's necessary, and come back.
Wow.
Because I work round the wheel, okay, the second weekend is in the north, and that is battle and conflict, death and rebirth. So you can imagine that
Yeah.
that's not going to be an easy direction to work with.
Yeah.
So I have had to do an awful lot of work on me in order to have the strength and the capability of holding that space.
Wow. That's well, it's on. I feel so honored to be sat with you because you're like a breath of fresh air. I still think your energy is very feminine, but I hear you. It's maybe using the word soft was not the quite word. Your energy, the female, like if you think of the female, she's not all softly, is she? She's fierce and strong, and
Mm.
is not afraid to rip down things that are no longer working. So
Well, it's interesting, isn't it, that in sort of in a lot of the pagan religions all over the world, including sort of like the Irish pantheon and everything, the deities and spiritual beings associated with war and death are female.
yeah,
Morrigan, Kali, and so on. It's like they're female, and like the dark half of the year, in according to Iron Age practices, and you sort of the later Celtic practices, if you like, the dark half of the year was always the feminine side.
yeah,
The light half is the masculine. So feminine traditionally is that darkness, that shadow, the darkness of the womb, and it's not necessarily gentle, like you say.
no, no. Well, a woman gives birth. That's not an easy process, is it? To bring another being from another dimension into this world, but that at the same time as she gives birth, as long as she hasn't got postnatal depression, it is that instant love, isn't it? Like out of the,
Yes.
she's been ripped apart, but there's this love at the same time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Women are very powerful, aren't they?
Yes, and we've been taught not to be. We've been taught that we're not, and it's not that, I have a quite a vehement dislike of, the Abrahamic religions for that reason.
Yeah.
It's like they know what a woman's power is. So it's like let's make them feel less than, let's let them be devalued, less powerful. It's there in the Bible, and Eve was she was the problem, wasn't she? She was the
Yeah,
one that ate the apple, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, blame it on the women.
yeah. And then if we think back over the years, how like, the women, like, where did it change? Because from the bits and pieces I've picked up over the years, it's like we weren't allowed to sing in churches, were we? We had to cover up. The men married and we took on their name. And over the years, when you look back, you see a woman's place was in the kitchen as a servant, wasn't it? But that wasn't always the case, was it? Women were not that at all, were they? Is that correct?
No, I mean if you look at the sort of the records, the archaeological the historical records, the accounts of the classical authors and everything, they describe the women of the continental Celts and the women in Britain as being quite terrifying,
Yeah,
strong. They
yeah,
still sort of did their feminine well, not duties, but played their feminine roles of being, nurturers and caring for the home and the hearth and the children and everything. But they also had that battle edge and, were as strong, in some instances, as strong as the male warriors. I mean, we look at the legend of Boudica. What if it's true what that woman went through is
yeah,
absolutely horrific.
yeah.
Her two little girls being raped by Roman soldiers, and while she was being whipped and had to watch it. I'm not surprised she went a bit crazy. Not
No,
surprised.
I'm not surprised in the slightest.
Mm.
Um, well, yeah. Oh, I could talk to you all day. Actually, it was really refreshing. As I was going to ask you something, and then that image came up. Oh, that's it. That's it. In one of my other interviews with Ola Wunley, she was saying how like the women have got that alchemy about them that they can birth into this reality things from the cosmos. We're the original birthers, and we've been used to birth into this reality what whoever they are, want us to project. And like how Easter is or spring, whatever we're thinking, we birth into this reality. Is this something that you've touched upon, how women have that ability to birth ideas, birth reality?
Hmm. I think, yeah, it's a difficult one for me, that, because I think the masculine and feminine can both create.
Yeah,
I really, I think, because I'm very much in the work that I've done, and it's very much about the balance between the two. We
yeah,
need both. We need
yeah.
both. Um, Certainly, from the period known that we call belting, obviously. So like that May Day, that is when, interestingly, the focus shifts into the masculine half of the year.
Uh-huh.
So things that are traditionally connected to fertility, that we would expect to be female issues, are actually not in the ancient literature. It's like it moves into the sun, into the sunlight, into the masculine, powerful half of the year. Yeah. So obviously you've got Imbolc. Imbolc is a sort of early medieval agricultural festival, which is now very much tied into paganism, which deals with issues around birth and things like that. So that's still within the feminine principles. But no, I find it that's a tricky question for me to answer, because it's like I really do feel the balance between the two, that both are required to create. Does
Yeah,
that make sense?
yeah, that makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. And I think also I've, like it's been too much in the masculine, hasn't it? And you can't go from one extreme to the other. You can't be too feminine and you can't have too much masculine. It is all about the harmony, because that's what
Yes.
that is nature, isn't it? It's about harmony, isn't it?
Well, it's funny because I do waste a lot of time scrolling on TikTok sometimes, and
You can't
there's
help it.
can't help it. No, but I have noticed a trend, and I don't know if you've noticed the same. There's an awful there's for a lot of what I would call toxic femininity.
Yeah.
Men bashing. We don't need. I'm going to be single, and I don't need a man, and you get what you deserve. Blah blah blah. So it's like what you're saying. It's like we've sort of shifted from a very very heavy masculine influence, but it's almost like the femininity's gone too far in the opposite direction now.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, it's like an elastic band. It's like too far in that direction.
Yeah.
Come on, guys, we need to come back into balance.
Yeah.
And into that, self, divine masculine, divine feminine situation, and that balance and that harmony, like you see in the Tai Chi symbol of the yin and the yang, everything in balance.
Mm.
Yeah.
What's the difference between animism and paganism?
Well, I suppose paganism is defined by you could correct me if I'm wrong, but generally speaking, it's defined by religion, sort of pagan religion and connection to deity and things like that. Whereas animism is a much, much, much older practice, and it's kind of like the basis upon which all religions have been formed. Okay, so we have sort of evidence of animistic practices going back to the early Paleolithic period, so a long, long time ago. So animism, I suppose, would you like me to sort of say what it is?
Yes, please. Yes,
Yeah,
please.
so animism, it can be defined as this a holistic belief system that asserts the existence of a spiritual essence, or an anima, if you like, within a vast array of natural entities, if not all natural entities. So things like animals, plants, and humans, to apparently inanimate objects like rocks, mountains, rivers, celestial bodies, and even now, our modern technology like cars and computers. So it's rooted in this fundamental idea of interconnectedness. And animism proposes that all things possess an innate consciousness, an intentionality, personhood that can parallel a human experience. Okay. So at its core, animism suggests that the world isn't divided into distinct categories of living and non-living entities, but rather it's like a complex web of spiritual energies, each experiencing various levels of sentience. So every entity, regardless of its apparent complexity or simplicity, is perceived as having its own unique spiritual identity, its own purpose, its own role in the broader cosmic order. So this isn't not limited to ideas, human ideas of soul, but instead represents a much larger spectrum of spiritual manifestations. So it's like, if you imagine, it's like nature is just a dynamic and sentient realm of which we are a part of. Okay. And it's populated by a multitude of spiritual forces or beings, which later became deified as gods. Okay, so these entities are attributed with the ability to influence events, affect human affairs, and interact with each other and with us. And it's from animism that a broad assortment of rituals and ceremonies and practices have evolved, designed to establish and maintain harmonious and reciprocal relationships with these entities, and then ultimately, evolved into the more familiar religions that we have and that we see today.
Beautiful. beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for explaining that. So again, like listening to you speaking, it's like it's and I think the message that you're coming across with is like stripping all these extra tap-ins and then getting back to the basics and living
Yes.
from that level, which is fantastic. Because when I was listening to you talk, I just saw this web, like this cobweb that you see at certain times of the year, and I thought we're all interconnected. So loved ones that have passed over into the spirit world, they're still around us, aren't they?
Absolutely.
And then the spirits of the animals and the plants and the rocks, the wind, the sun, they're beings as well, aren't they?
Of course they are. And with a little bit of time and practice, you can learn how to communicate with all of them, which is part of what I teach in my seership training.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Right. Well, you shared your knowledge with the rituals, and I was like thinking, what can I name this video? It's going to be like, this is going to help you on so many levels. So to wrap this interview to you up, I mean, like, I feel like this is a stepping stone. There's so much you can share and talk about. One way people can do is like the online courses or apply for the seership training, which part of me is thinking, I feel like I want to put my hand up and apply and see what comes. Like, oh no, you're not ready, or oh yeah, you are ready.
Well, sorry, just to interject, before you
yeah.
can apply for that, you have to have done one of the wheel weekend workshops.
Oh.
Just to introduce you to the concept. But what we're going to do is we're going to put the wheel workshop online, a version of it online for people to access.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. Because I was just going to say, ask, moving forward, like people can go down, attend one of your workshops, and then online, and which I think is amazing because we spoke about it before coming on air, and I love the way you're going to be presenting it. I just think that's brilliant. And apart from the ritual, is there I think I want to just like, is there anything that people can do to enhance their lives, like from listening to this video, apart from doing the ritual? Is there anything else you'd like to just share, how, anything that comes into your heart? If there isn't, then that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, so it's just something that basically forms part of my everyday existence, and it's like, and it goes back to this animistic concept of the interconnectedness and the relationship with all things. And you mentioned earlier on how we've been sort of, as with the coming of the Abrahamic religions, we've been very much separated from our connection to the land. So something that I like to do every day is just go out and talk. And it sounds crazy to people think, oh my God, that wee woman's mad, honestly. But I will go. I will go. I'm quite lucky where I live that I have access to a lot of open spaces, and I find little places down by streams and things to be quite sort of sacred. And I will sit and I will just talk to the spirits there. So whether and it doesn't matter. There's no need for you to know who they are, what they are, okay? But just the knowledge that you are being listened to, and they will send you a sign if you ask for it. I mean, I'll give you a quick example. When I moved here from Yorkshire, I went out on the land every day and I introduced myself to the spirits there, said what I was doing, why I was there, and asked for a sign that I had been, accepted, that they had heard me, that we were developing friendship and trust and all that kind of thing. I went out every day, and it took about 3 months before I got the sign that I'd asked for. And my sign was, I would like an unusual bird to present itself if you accept me and if we have developed a trusting relationship. So I went down to my sacred space, and some of the things I used to talk about, I would just talk about the severing of the connection. about how Christianity came and taught us that what I was doing right there and then was evil. It was demonic to speak to the spirits of the land, and I got a really strong reaction from the winds that was quite timely. But yeah, and then I just closed my eyes and I just said, if this is real and you are hearing me and we have this friendship, send me my sign. And the next thing I knew, I heard this like plop, which sounded, when a fish comes up for air.
Yeah.
Get that sound. And I thought, oh, right, it's not the sign I asked for, but yeah, fair enough. And then I opened my eyes and oh my God, it still gets to me. There on a branch, like literally a meter away from me, was this beautiful kingfisher.
Oh, oh
And they
my
are
God.
notoriously shy birds, right? And it was sitting there with a fish in its mouth, just staring into my eyes.
No.
And he sat there for about 30 seconds, and I was like completely still with tears streaming down my face. That I can't move because I'll scare him away. Oh my God. Yeah, and he just sat there looking at me for about 30 seconds and then flew away.
Oh my God. Wow.
So you could look at that and think, oh, that's a
No.
coincidence.
Uh-uh. No.
But
No. I think we've been told that magic doesn't exist,
of
and
course we
that
have,
is
yeah.
proof magic. We live on a magical realm that is sacred, ancient. And one thing that I stood out when I was listening to you, I'm sorry, I get so passionate sometimes. You went out into the land and you weren't demanding, you were
Nope.
making friends. That's that is the missing link, isn't it?
Of course it is. Of course it is. And what reason do the spirits of the land have to trust human beings after what we've done to this planet?
Exactly. Like we've destroyed it. We've
And
dammed up the wells. We've destroyed the. I say we. Well, maybe okay. I'd like to say the government, but we play a part of it as well, big time. We've got to take responsibility. But yeah, like we need to build some bridges and let them trust us again,
yes.
and be friends. That is one thing that, like a little light bulb moment going off. It's like we've got to make friends with them, and
Exactly.
that has been a missing link in so many spiritual practices, hasn't it?
Yep.
It's almost like you said.
Because we focus all our attention up there,
Yeah.
And even, sort of people that are working with like ascended masters and, the Ascension 5, they're still focusing up there. And it's like we're forgetting that we live here. We
Yes.
live here, and our planet is full of spirits on the land, and
Yes.
who have been ignored. They have essentially been ignored, apart
Yeah.
from indigenous cultures, but by Western sort of materialist people, they've been ignored for a couple of thousand years.
Yeah.
So of course it's going to take time. Of course it's going to take time to build a friendship, build a trust. I go out and I give offerings every day. Talk to them every day. And yes, anybody watching me would think I'm a lunatic. Don't care, because what comes back is so much more important and so much more grounding and so much more healing. And it's like I know this as a fundamental truth. When you heal your relationship with the earth and the spirits and everything in it, you heal yourself.
Sam, I feel like I've had a healing session. I feel like you've empowered me, and I hope everyone who listens to this video feels empowered. And and our spirituality is as simple as that. And the healing is our connection to this earth, this realm, this planet. And it's like this fire inside me. It's like it's simplicity. As simple as that.
Yes. Yeah.
And can I ask you two questions? When you talk to them, do you talk out loud?
Yes.
Fab. And when you offer offerings, what sort of offerings do you offer?
Right. So I stick with what we know as traditional offerings. So, and the
Fab.
one thing I want to say is don't throw anything in the waters.
Yeah,
Right. No, regardless. The only offerings that you can make to water would be stones and crystals, things like that. And even then you have to be careful, maybe just
yeah,
quartz crystals.
yeah, because you don't
Um,
know where the stones come from, another part of the land,
no,
isn't it?
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. So the traditional offerings are things like hazelnuts, apples, honey, milk, cream, ale, mead, walnuts. So anything that is kind of indigenous to Britain, or so a lot of the smoke offerings that I make when I speak, things like juniper is like the British version of white sage. Essentially, it does exactly the same thing as white sage and has much less environmental impact. Um, so yeah, so anything that belongs here,
yeah,
that's what I offer.
fab. I did pour some milk in my garden, and Drago a few days later was trying to dig it up.
Of course, yes, it smells good, especially when it goes off. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I won't make that mistake again because he had diarrhea a few days later.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, what part of Yorkshire did you live in? Because my daughter's in Yorkshire, so it always rings a bell.
York,
York,
so the
as in York.
capital. Yeah, yeah.
Ah, what a beautiful place. Sam, I can't thank you enough. I hope we can meet again via YouTube. I hope we can
Mm-hmm.
meet. Well, if we're meant to meet, we will meet. I know that much. Um, this has been so helpful and so beneficial and so empowering and so beautiful. There's so much more I can ask you, but your time is precious, and we need to go away and digest what you've said now and put into practice what you're saying now. I think we all need to reconnect to the land and
Mm.
make friends.
Yes,
I love
yes, yes,
that.
yes. Well, if you do that, just do, stay, message me and just let me know how it
I will.
feels and what sort of experiences you've had, because I'm fascinated, because it all goes into my book as well, which I'm
Yeah.
writing at the moment. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I journal, and so it will be a big part of my journaling because I've asked you like before with connecting to the spirit guides, but it never ever dawned on me. Maybe I should like say, can I be your friend? I want to become friends. It's not.
Exactly. It's
Whereas
as if it if you treat them as if you're talking to somebody that you
I
want to make friends with, you don't just assume that everybody's going to like you either. When you meet other human beings, it's exactly the same with the land spirits. It might take you 3 months. It might take you a week. It might take you 3 months. Might take you 6 months. Or also be prepared for the fact that you're never accepted, because
yeah.
not everything is friendly.
No, and you know what? Because I worked 2 days in a nursery looking after babies, and I've learned in the 3 years of looking after babies, you cannot force yourself on a baby. you a baby will come to you when it's ready,
Mm-hmm.
and that is the way it should be. And it's the same with
Yes.
spirits, isn't it?
Yes.
You show up, be present, let them get to feel you, let them know that you're not threatening. It's like animals, isn't it? Like we
Mm-hmm.
dogs and cats and every animal, you don't force yourself upon them. You let them get to know you. You build up that trust, you build up that relationship, it takes time.
Precisely.
Wow, Sam, thank you. You're phenomenal. And I'm going to put in the description in the box how to contact you via your webpage and also
Oh,
on Instagram. And for people to, if they're in the area, to for the courses, it's all on your webpage anyway, the courses,
yeah.
and everything will be up there, how to connect with you. I really hope you've all enjoyed it as much as I have. It's been absolutely phenomenal. I'm so glad our paths have met.
Same.
And have a beautiful day and keep doing what you're doing. Just keep doing what you're doing. We need you in the world, and you're just amazing, beautiful. So thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Right, I'm going to stop recording now. So just going to smile because when I do this, it's like, oh, making some face. So stop recording. Yes.